Welcome to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, the ultimate resource for business leaders who need a boost in revenue and business growth. I'm your host, Kerry Curran. With over 20 years of marketing agency experience driving client business growth, I now run RBMA Revenue-Based Marketing Advisors, where we help businesses like yours effectively scale revenue growth. Visit revenuebasedmarketing.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. In this episode titled The Retail Media Death Star, Data, Strategy, and the Path to Conversion, I sit down with my old friend, retail media expert, Mike Feldman. Mike and I shared the stage at Advertising Week New York in 2019, where we had the only session on e-commerce and retail media. A lot has changed since then. Today, Mike is the head of retail media at VaynerMedia. In this episode, Mike and I discuss how brands can leverage retail media networks, or RMNs, to drive revenue and maximize engagement by tapping into one of the fastest growing areas of digital marketing. Mike takes us through the journey from retail media's early days to its current state, which he calls the Death Star stage, where seamless access to data, smart automation, and media investment are all aligned to power growth like never before. He explains the benefits of retail data consolidation. He offers a behind-the-scenes look at retail media's rise and discusses strategic tools that allow brands to personalize at scale and reduce ad spend waste. For executives ready to tap into new strategies that move the needle, this episode delivers actionable insights for using retail media to optimize every stage of the customer journey. And welcome, Mike. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very excited to have you on. Please introduce yourself and share a bit about your background and expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Kerry. I'm Mike Feldman. I lead the retail media practice at VaynerMedia. This is actually my third time building out a retail media practice. The first time is where we originally crossed paths when I was building out the retail media practice at Georgia Pacific. Angel Soft toilet paper, Brawny paper towels, all the very cool stuff. Since have built out the retail media practice at Dentsu, so spent a lot of time there on the agency side working with great agency brands like Merkle, 360i, iProspect, Kara, with really large CPGs, doing all that on both the buy side and the sell side of the industry. And then 7 months joined the Vayner crew, and so in my role here, really trying to build out the retail practice, as well as, I get the fun pleasure of tapping into all the wonderful little things that Gary and VaynerX have going on to create more retail, commerce, other capabilities. So no shortage of things going on.
No, absolutely, Mike. And always great to catch up with you because you always have your eye on kind of the key opportunities within the industry and what's coming next. So we have lots to talk about today. So, as you mentioned, you and I have known each other a long time, and 8 years, 6 years, but in that time, the landscape for e-commerce and retail media has exploded. We were talking about, I think it was 2019 that we were on the stage together at Advertising Week, and we were the only e-commerce or Amazon panel at all of Advertising Week. It was you, me, we had representation from Xaxis and then ImpactView. And so I always think back to that because even at the time we were like, isn't it weird that we're the only ones here talking about this? But now all of that week is e-com retail media, at least last year. And Cannes was all about retail media. Yeah. So we've had a front row seat. It's one of my favorite topics of conversation because it's been amazing to watch the rapid evolution. So talk to me about, you're obviously have been a lot closer to it. Tell me of what you've seen and what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, it's awesome finally being one of the cool kids now that retail media is sort of having its moment. My dad would always say growing up, better lucky than good. And so I do feel very lucky to have been so closely involved in the growth of retail media over the last
Yeah.
decade. So I'd even say like where we started to interact and like even if you go back a couple years before that, I was in a role at Zenith on the agency side and working really closely with Georgia Pacific. And so they had actually at the time, I think they might have been the very first to do a Amazon upfront with like Amazon advertising. And so Dow Bergma, the CMO at the time, like he really understood that the benefits of retail media like outweighed even just the pure retail benefits. And so just how they were going to think as an organization, especially an organization with no D2C, no real data whatsoever, and like how you can use better data to run better campaigns. So worked really closely on the agency side, was then eventually brought in to sort of build out like what is the future of retail media for Georgia Pacific. And I think as like only roles can sort of go when you're in the early stages of things, my role was 50% funded as retail media and 50% shopper marketing. And so just like to I like to use that as a starting point of like where did it all go. And so in that role, really GP was like, hey, we're going to make a big bet with Amazon because we might do things with them because of all their data and the way we would think about the growth of e-com. We might even consider running with Amazon advertising, regardless if we sold products on Amazon or not. And so that was sort of the mentality and like, how do we use retail media to be better? Then where my goal and sort of where I was brought in is to what is the next version of that? What is that with Walmart? What is that with Target? What is that with Kroger? And so really that became a big part of my remit. And I really think that's also where retail media has gone. You go from like, hey, we were doing this stuff in, shopper marketing. Maybe we were paying a lot, not getting a lot of transparency. Well, like, hey, retail media is more transparent, more self-service, more cost efficient, higher performing. And so we started to see a lot move in that area and just frankly, like catch up to like where they should have been, frankly. You look at like, things like I remember back when we started interacting, like we were looking at like viewability rates for like off-site retail media compared to brand media, and it was like a third. And so like just, you were paying like high premiums for low quality. And so I think we finally caught up there where like that's where shopper marketing then became retail media. Now where it's all going is just like a whole different beast as I think like really retail media is just more of all the greatness that marketing has to offer, just more data tied to actual conversion, lots of people. And so it's just been taking all that sort of those principles and exploding it, taking it not only on like the shopper or the retail specific lens, but then like, what does this data do nationally, broader and broader and broader and bigger. And that's where it continues to go. And then ends up in Cannes and places like that.
Right. And and so, sometimes I look at it, especially having seen the evolution and knowing what else is out there. It feels a little bit like the shiny object, like back in the day when people would say we're doing Facebook because we should be doing Facebook. It's like the new hot thing. Like, what do you think that's kind of what retail media is, kind of the hot new shiny object, or like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, a little bit yes, a little bit no. I would say there's two charts that I always like looking at. Like one is looking at the trajectory and growth of retail media, and like you see that going 20% year over year. There's another chart in eMarketer that I really like that shows like basically how quickly search, social, and retail media all took to get from 1 billion to 30 billion. And I think like to me, that's really the chart to look at because like, yes, retail media, there's shiny things like, there's better data and all this kind of stuff. At the same time, for like, a lot of our CPG clients and things like that, like the retail media network or retailer is a necessary evil. They need to be on the product shelf. If Walmart is saying, hey, we're going to remove you, that's dramatic to their business. And so anything related to Walmart is just viewed with a different set of urgency in that organization, whether it's directly connected or not. But I would say like, there's a lot of those reasons. The reason I like looking at that chart in the overall growth is that I would define retail media as retailers monetizing data and properties. And so if you look at it over the course of those channels, like I think retail media will only continue to expand in those channels. Like Amazon has NBA rights next year. Does that count as a TV spend? Does that count as retail media spend? I would say generally retail media is the evolution of where media is going. Retailers are going to have better data sets than a lot of the partners out there. Really, to me, it's like what publishing partners have the best data sets. And to me, it's retailers and social platforms. And so like, that's where I would be looking at investments, and that's where it will like continue to grow. How we define that as like retail media or whatever, whether that's the shiny object in retail media or just the evolution of the industry, is up for interpretation.
No, I mean, I definitely agree with you. And it's, it feels like, however, if the retail media networks, they own the data, right? They own the customer data. It's you're the versus when you go to brand.com, then the retailer owns their own first party data. And how much are the retail media networks sharing that first party data? So do you feel like that's still, is there more equity in data out there, or that it should be?
Yeah. It's a little bit different for everyone. And I'll say like, there's a couple different approaches. I'll say Amazon being the best, in that I really do think Amazon is treating it like a media publisher first, a retail marketplace second, in the sense that if you are a D2C brand retailer, you can actually use Amazon Marketing Cloud, work with Amazon, suppress all your loyal existing D2C shoppers, use Amazon to go after new. You can then retarget, bring them back into D2C experience. And so like I think Amazon, while it's not like, hey, here's all the data, it's you can plug into AMC and have this one-stop shop that fully connects like your data into our data in this nice ecosystem. I would say like, as I look at the broader media landscape and lots of consolidation, I could certainly see that happening, not just in the retail media space. Like you look at like Walmart, my take on Walmart is that they should literally give away the Vizio TVs for free because they could make more money on the advertising side. Like everyone gets a Vizio.
So smart.
Yeah, you make a ton of money. But and so like you can see those ecosystems being created on the more traditional side, like whether that's like a Disney or someone like that, if they can pull together enough of those pieces where it's, hey, we have the DSP, we have the clean room. And so it's like, I'll call it like the RMN Death Star, where like all you need to do is plug in and then you get access to like all that good stuff. I know we just like before this, we're talking about where the industry is going and things like that. And that's where I do think on like the data piece and where consolidation in retail media is really interesting, because you look at someone like an Ahold, and they're starting to test out like you can get access to your data in a live ramp. And so then the conversation is really different between the supplier. Like I'll put on my like GP hat going back in the day. So it's like, hey, we can go sell an Ahold, and then, we get instead of a slotting fee, maybe we have a data fee, and the data then becomes ours through LiveRamp, and we can use it for targeting and measurement on the back end. And like, it's a % of our overall agreement, but it's decoupling data from media. Like I think as a brand, I would love that. Like that's, again, like if you think about where programmatic has gone in the last 2 decades, like more self-service, more control, more getting access to things on your end, like more owning it. Where like retail media is going is more of like the Amazon plug into the Death Star, or actually in a lot of cases, it's not even that interoperability. It's like, give us all your money and we'll control it. But I'd say like the evolution is more to the Amazon Death Star once the technology and pipes are all set up.
Yeah. Are you going to trademark that term, the Amazon Death Star?
No, I'm sure elsewhere.
This episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, is brought to you by Kriglu. Want to boost customer acquisition while saving time and money? Meet Kriglu, an AI-powered omni-channel bid management platform designed to optimize your ad spend. Kriglu intelligently adjusts bids across channels, ensuring your ads reach the right audience at the lowest cost. Plus, with its automation, you'll free up valuable time to focus on your business. The result? Efficient, cost-effective growth, all while maximizing your marketing budget. Ready to scale smarter and faster? Visit Kriglu.com, Kriglo.com, and start saving today. So I guess it's really interesting because I think of too specifically with Ahold, do they have, like, are they ever going to have the volume that a broader retailer is going to have to, like, or because with online grocery, yes, there's the kind of more like a Peapod kind of capability versus an Instacart, like, but that's a lot different than the volume of data that a broader multi-category retailer is going to have.
Yeah. And that's like, I for sure see consolidation. And that's where I think that that
Mm-hmm.
approach is actually sustainable. And it can go one of two ways. Like, either the smaller partners are going to separate the data from the like inventory and things like that. And again, what I guess where retail media is growing, let's assume Amazon continues to grow, Walmart continues to grow, Target, Kroger, Instacart continue to grow. Like,
Yeah.
there's not, you know, if they all grow, that size of the pie is like going to be completely knocking everyone else out. So we're going to see consolidation. And that's where, like, even starting to see it a
Mm-hmm.
little bit in like regional grocers banding up
Yeah.
with like a Ripple or Bridge. And so it's like, hey, if we don't have enough clout to compete, then like, can we combine enough of these non-competes to build enough of a scalable solution? And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
can they network up to be big enough to compete? To answer your question really pointedly about Ahold, like, no, in the US, I do not think long term they are set up to compete. They will need to band up with other people, or,
Mm-hmm.
which I really like what they're doing, they will need to separate data from the media offer. And so then it's a significantly easier barrier to entry. Literally
Yeah.
every endemic advertiser to you that's selling product, like, you can include a data fee, just like a slotting fee, and
Mm-hmm.
take some extra margin there. And the suppliers would love it because they get better data for better targeting, better measurement, all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, it's I love it. And it's, yeah, the more sophisticated the data gets, the smarter you can get with your advertising and your targeting. So it makes sense. And it's just like it changes so fast. Um so you, in your current role, tell us a bit more about what you're doing, and what are, so are clients coming, or prospects coming to Vayner, like what are they asking you, or what are the challenges that you're seeing firsthand these days?
Yeah. So I'd say one of the things that really excited me about Vayner and coming into the role here. So, like, previously, I have been in relatively like media specific roles for
Mhm.
the last decade. I mean, like, client side, obviously, did some creative and things like that. But I would say my side hustle, in addition to media, tended to be more like sales or supply chain meetings than like joining the creative side of things.
Yeah.
Then so I was in like a media service line specific role. And so this was one of the things that intrigued me is like, retail media continues to grow. We went from what, 35 billion to like 50 billion and continuous billions of projections, but like literally no one is investing anything in retail media creative. There's
Right.
no shops out there that are like, hey, we're
Mhm.
great at retail media creative. There's like literally everyone ignores it. And then
Right.
even more so, the way retail media P&Ls are set up, I think it's even harder now to fund retail media creative than ever before, because like everyone's fighting for dollars between the sales team, the shopper team, the brand team, and like more and more dollars are getting moved into like sponsored products and media. And where does that come from? Eventually gets cut from like agency fees or creative fees or like non-working.
Mhm.
And so it's set up this world where like, you have, going back to like we talked about SaaS and things like that, like
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, like I need to find cheaper and cheaper ways to do retail media creative because like there's more automation, things like that. And what's happened is we've seen 90% plus go into like sponsored product spend,
Yeah.
which is not long-term sustainable. And
Right.
so like the question, some of the questions I'm getting from the brands and like what I'm doing in the role. So I'd say, one, my role and task and remit is to like take the best of what Vayner does and bring that into the retail media ecosystem. And so one thing that Vayner does incredible is our volume model in organic social. So instead of doing like a social post in a month, we're going to do 30 in a week, use the
Mhm.
insights that we're getting from the platform to then create new campaigns, scale, etc. The retail media version of that is, instead of doing a sponsor brand video on Amazon for a brand a year, we're going to do 30. We're then going to use things like the quick feedback loops of retail media, because it's the largest first party data sets in the world, tied to conversion. So you only need a couple thousand impressions to start to get a read, which, like, it's also mind blowing to me that we're spending billions of dollars in retail media with like a finger in the air guess as to what creative or message is going to work,
Right.
where we're like putting out a couple thousand of impressions, feeling significantly more confident with what we're going to push out with the next couple billion in spend after spending a couple thousand.
Yeah.
And so like, one, I think that's a massive opportunity. The other is just in general, and I go back to this, is sponsored products is just not sustainable.
Right.
Like if you go back to the way brands were built 30 years ago, it was like, hey, we're going to dominate in national TV. And then people are going to like trip over the product in store because, you might have three brands.
Giant.
They're all on end cap. Yeah. It's like, the big brands and like, they're all fighting them and it's them. It's so different now, especially with like the amount of e-com purchases, like just the trading variables with the customers are so different. And so now it's more of like a conversation of like, how do we do that in a digital commerce environment? The answer has been sponsored products, but again, like you can't pay your entire margin on a cost per click. The notion and like the business cases we used to make back in the day when, we were working early was like, oh, the repeat and long-term and things like that. But I think we've seen now that e-com is so mature and that consumers switch a lot and like a lot of the notions have been sort of debugged. And I think heavy sponsored product, while like helpful to drive volume, not going to be your long-term plan.
Yeah. And so what trends, other than, the multiple iterations, like are you pulling social content into the sponsored product video?
Yeah. So I'd say, a couple of different things. Like one is certainly multiple versions in the quick feedback loops. The other is I'll shout out to like Amazon and Amazon Marketing Cloud. Especially if you look at that, simple things like sponsored brand video, you can now get post view behavior because of Amazon Marketing Cloud and the data clean room. So like literally you can test product claims through a sponsored brand video and then see if people searched against those claims and then see the conversion rate of each individual term. So like, does your content then resonate with like the messaging that you're putting? So again, like we can just get so much smarter with what we're doing, not to mention like, I'd say my favorite thing is to look at path to conversion. Again, my like biggest harp is that like sponsored products, like we need to get off that drug. And so like, I love looking at like path to conversion. So if we can put out a better message, do we even need sponsored products at the end of the day? Or is someone willing to go buy the 4 other competitors and then click our organic one and not have to pay the couple bucks? Like, some of that kind of stuff seems silly, but like necessary. In terms of your question on social, like I also, I'd say like one of the questions we get all the time, I'm sure, you can appreciate this as a advertising exec, but it's, hey, we want to 3X the business on Amazon. We're not going to 3X the budget. You can get the same budget. And we want to become less reliant on sponsored products is like generally one of the remits that we'll get. And we're like, oh yeah, no problem, whatever. Yeah, we totally get that. And so, I'd say again, one of my favorite things about working at Vayner is our entire go-to-market strategy was written in a New York Times bestseller this year. And so day trading attention. And so like the way, the modern brands are built is really through, I would say, organic social. And so to your question there, like social and retail media do not go right now. However, they don't go from like a technology standpoint. If you get strategists and practitioners, the parallels are extremely easy. So like one of the easiest examples I will give out there is I love using, as a consumer, I actually don't use that much TikTok, but as a business professional, I use TikTok all the time, mainly because there's this tool called Creator Search Insights. And so it's free within the platform, all that good stuff. There's also a tab within there called Content Gap, and it is literally telling you, it's literally TikTok telling you your audience has a higher demand for certain areas of content than there is a supply on the TikTok app. And so if you then bring that into the CPG world, we can literally look at, all right, your audience, here's the things in the category that they're looking at. Like they're craving this type of recipe content. They're craving this type of food, this type of contextual thing going on in culture. And so what we're doing is we pulled together like basically relevance reports of like everything going on in social. We then share that out with the creator. So then things like your product detail page content, we're updating that in the same way that we would social. We're using current insights, current trends going on in market to then inform. Where eventually like we want to go and take things as not only just doing that from like a creative or PDP content standpoint, but like think about product innovation. Like, so, certain like in one that really popped I saw the other day was in looking at like the hair care category. And so over the course of the summer in TikTok, like frizzy hair content was like all the consumers wanted more frizzy hair content because summer heat, humidity. I mean, you can, I got a little bit of that going. But and there's like almost no one on Amazon is really talking that much about like frizzy hair or curly, coily hair and things like that. And so not only like, hey, can we do the creative, but then because of the quick feedback loops, if that starts to look good, do we even try product innovation? Do we push a specific new product because of trends that we're seeing in social? Again, to like where retail media gets really exciting and things like that. Like, are we a 3P seller on Amazon? Do we have a TikTok shop? Do I sell 200 of these items, use ratings and reviews to then inform like, is there really something there? And then we can try to explode that in the marketplace.
Yeah. And I think you're so spot on, Mike. And what, like we talked about once before, is that a lot of those basic concepts of the PDP optimization, using consumer insights to inform what your content is going to be and your product development, like that's the stuff that's not new. But I think that goes back to retail media being a shiny object. Brands are so focused on buying their eyeballs that, to your point, you just made, like, there's a wealth of data and information, whether it's coming from TikTok insights or back when we used to use Google search volume to determine like what people were interested in. And it just brings me back to like the years of PDP optimization strategies. And like you and I both have presented on this, on so many, I used it so many times years ago. And I think always used to start with the fact that you have seconds to attract someone's attention when they're on searching the Amazon results page, right? And to your point of, if you can pull in the insights from either review or gap analysis within TikTok, and you have that in your title, you have that in your product name description, you don't need to pay for it. Or, like you need the click-through rate to get the organic ranking. But to your point, like, so smart, and the data is right there.
Yeah, I would say one trend in retail media that will make that harder is like everything is SaaS automation, things like that. Like I think, the challenge I've seen in my career, especially like building out retail media teams, and I'll just say I'm super biased, but I think retail media is the toughest job out there, mainly because like if you look at some of the more junior team members, like they're working in 30 different RMNs at any one given time. And so SaaS automation technology becomes really important just to be able to like actually do the thing of like getting things in market in like an accurate way that we're going to drive demand or whatever. And so that's where like looking at some more manual things becomes more challenging. And so like, again, that's where I was excited to join an organization where creative and media were together, because I think if you're just making media decisions, you like automate and everything's super, super streamlined. On the creative side, like people love to like really dive into it and like get into the audience and so I think retail media is best done when you can blend those worlds a little bit. And so like any ways that we can do to like basically take tons of data and get it into like a more digestible way. Like I will say the content gap is sort of manual. What I like doing is then pairing that with things like ARA keyword trend data. So like if I see something in TikTok and I see that it's starting to like have some relevance on Amazon, like that's where then we like really will go deeper. Because again, like if you're running in 30 RMNs, like how many big bets can you make? And so noting to like anyone listening that if you're running across like a million RMNs, that can be challenging. So like on the big bet front, like there's some ways to narrow it. On the automation front, I think this one's so fun. So a lot of the SaaS partners, especially with like Gen AI, like Amazon trying to, get more into that space, like doing some testing of like, hey, like does Gen AI automated creative perform better than like what we're putting out there in marketplace? The early reads I've seen is it's about the same. I will say the reads I've seen from like using social informed creative is significantly better. And so it's like, how do we take a better process and automate it a little bit better is like where I'm going, versus just like automate everything and then try to make it as good as possible.
Right. Well, and to your point, like I think everything's getting harder but better. And so it's how do you get smarter to be more effective and more efficient? And with that, to your point, comes AI and new tech opportunities and tools. Are there other kind of emerging technology in the e-com space or retail media space that you have your eye on, or like, what do you think? What are you testing, or what do you think's kind of next?
Yeah, I in general, like so right now, social and retail media don't necessarily go hand in hand.
Right.
We've seen some like various announcements and trickles and things like that coming out in the marketplace. Like right now, it's just been lots of like co-op shopping and things like that. But
Yep.
Kroger working on more of like a meta integration has, I'd say, like, to me, that's the ultimate holy grail, is if we can get retail media data into the social platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because then you can like literally post out things in organic content for free. You can then use the platform insights to see which cohorts are resonating. You can create retail specific cohorts and things like that. And, and then like create campaigns right to the retailer, whatever. Like social in general in retail media, like, again, we're using it for insights and creative. The more that the media ties in together, reporting, measurement,
Mm-hmm.
like that's going to be super exciting. Other stuff going on, like the different video units are just really interesting to me in general. Like you can go on the most micro level of like, I think sponsor brand video on Amazon is such an interesting unit because you only need a couple thousand impressions to get statistical significance. You're reaching people that are like in your aisle. It's literally like, hey, I'm searching toilet paper, I'm here in the toilet paper aisle or whatever. Like and to me, like, and then getting those insights into Amazon Marketing Cloud to then push out to like other initiatives, like even, hey, we're going to quickly mine through SBV to then find the spot that we're going to put in our Amazon's first ever playoff football game or whatever. Like we can do that kind of stuff because we have all the data and the connections. And so, yeah, the video space, especially with the quick feedback loops of retail media, is super intriguing. The last one I'll give is, again, like I think Amazon Marketing Cloud is just fantastic. And so if you're a retailer and wanting to work with like an Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
just the ability to do so many different things from an audience standpoint. I know I already talked about like sort of suppressing your existing, maybe more profitable, more loyal D2C shopper, using Amazon to go after like incremental audiences. But then
Mm-hmm.
with Amazon Marketing Cloud, like the ability to create custom audiences based off of not only like how they're interacting in terms of like their sales journey, but then media exposures as well, is just so interesting to me. Where like you can have a portfolio of companies across multiple things, like, and if they're exposed to this one thing and they buy this one product, like we can put them in this group. Or they buy this product, they've been exposed and haven't bought this other product, we can put them in a different group. And like just more personalization at scale in retail media, tying it to actual sales is the goal. And like with more consolidation, like if you have brands making a really big bet into the RMN Death Star or whatever, like I could really see an effective business where you're building up a brand through an organic social, you're launching specific assortment through D2C, Amazon, a TikTok shop, and having like specific needs for each of those, connecting it all through an Amazon Marketing Cloud to deduplicate your path to conversion and eliminate a ton of waste. Like I know those are all the jargon words in one sentence, but also like that is a good way to run a business.
Yeah, no, and it gets, again, it just shows how smart you can be with the right data, with the right investment in the right partners and the data. I think that a lot of the challenge comes down to getting the budgets for all that investment. But to your point, if you could, it does then allow you to prove the value and benefit. So
I think my where I'm a little curious where it goes is like, I think people generally are on board of the like, we need to get off the sponsored product drug. I personally do not think programmatic display banners are very effective. And so I would say that's generally like the second place we go from retail media. Everyone's like
offsite,
okay,
you mean
I have maxed out sponsored product
Yeah.
spend, I'm maxed out on site or whatever. I want to do something that's cheap and that counts to my, overall JBP commitment or whatever. And it tends to be programmatic display, especially because like video is not going to perform in the short term or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think generally like that's going to be a critical point. And so like RMNs can recommend more programmatic display as just a person in the world. I don't think that is going to work, whether it shows in an MMM or not or whatever. Like, I don't think that's going to help people's business. And so thinking about like, what is the thing beyond sponsored products, feature and display in store, whatever, like, and to me, video needs to do that. That's where like the data, the better audiences, custom paths to conversion, and like certain messages based on where they are, is how retail media is going to succeed.
I love this. Perfect. Mike, you are the smartest and most enthusiastic expert out there. So I'm very lucky and grateful to have you join today. Always great speaking with you. So thank you so much for joining our episode today. And we definitely will have you back. So much more to talk about. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast. For more episodes and to learn how you can boost your revenue, go to revenuebasedmarketing.com. And be sure to subscribe to Revenue Boost, a marketing podcast, so you don't miss more strategies for growing your business.